The Cardinals got humbled earlier in the week against Arkansas, but they bounced back in the best possible way against Indiana a couple days later. We'll break it down. You're locked on Louisville.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome in to this Monday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my sixth year covering U of L, fourth year hosting this show. Of course, Locked On Louisville is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in the world. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On College to get $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. A lot of stuff went down this weekend. We will break it all down on today's show. The bowl game has been announced for Louisville football, and I would imagine that the vast majority of Card Nation isn't too thrilled with who they got paired with to play in late December. We will react to the college football playoff reveal, how it affects Louisville and the ACC moving forward. But we're going to start out with the men's basketball team's bounce-back victory over Indiana, 87-78 W over a team that was ranked 22nd when they played. Now, both of these teams lost earlier in the week. Indiana to Minnesota. Louisville got humbled in their first loss of the season when they played at Arkansas on Wednesday. Talked leading up to this game that they had to bounce back because it doesn't really get much easier from here on out. Yes, you have a game against Montana coming up in late December, but after the Indiana game, you have Memphis, then at Tennessee, and then you have Montana, then you start ACC play. You had to have short-term memory and just turn the page and bounce back. And Louisville did that in probably the best way possible. Let nobody fool you. This was a road game. I don't care. Miss me with the neutral game stuff. This was a road game. I was in attendance at Gamebridge Fieldhouse on Saturday, and it was probably about 90% Indiana fans. This was a true road game. And to watch Louisville start the way they did, open up the game on a 16-0 run, and just control the game throughout, that's the best way to bounce back. You didn't just get a win. You got a decisive win where you played good. You obviously affected the other team, and you got a quad one victory. I mentioned the best possible bounce back. This was the best possible start. I mean, whenever you open up a 16-0 lead to start the game and you don't trail at any point in the 40 minutes of game action. There were times during the game on Saturday where Indiana cut the lead to single digits. In the first half, it was 16-0. Then it became 16-8. And then Louisville answered. Second half, the Cardinals went into halftime with a 14-point lead. Indiana cut the lead to single digits at some point in the second half. And what happened? The same thing that happened in the first half. Louisville answered. Every time Indiana threatened, Louisville had an answer. And I forgot who it was that said it. Forgive me for not remembering who said this. Actually, now I remember it was Jeff Goodman, and he basically said that Louisville is just in a different tier than Indiana. They're a Final Four contender. The Hoosiers are probably an NCAA tournament team. And I don't disagree with that. I think Indiana is going to be a good squad. Once they get some help from guys not named Tucker DeVries or Lamar Wilkerson, I think that Darian DeVries' team is going to be pretty solid. So, and for Louisville's sake, you need them to be solid. I mentioned this was a quad one victory. Kentucky, they keep stumbling. That victory against the Wildcats doesn't look as good. And if they keep losing, it's going to look worse and worse. The Cincinnati win doesn't look good at all. So you had to get signature marquee victory somewhere. And this was an opportunity, all throughout this month's an opportunity to get those victories. And starting out against Indiana, even though they've gone on a 2-game losing streak, they still are top 30 in the net. So it qualifies as a quad one victory. So best possible bounce back performance because you were decisive. You commanded the game. You commanded the lead. You controlled the game, and you dictated the flow. Indiana was reactionary in this game. I felt like Louisville did a really good job of defending. On-ball defense was much, much better than it was just a couple nights ago. The first half, Louisville's on-ball defense was smothering. It was suffocating. They weren't giving Indiana many open looks. The shots in that 16-0 opening frame, I mean, Indiana was struggling to create mismatches. Louisville was switching on screens. They weren't giving up many open shots. And finally, there was a dump down. I think it was a play where it was like a mini 2-on-1, and Wilkerson just dumped it down to the big man, and he scored, if I remember correctly. But it goes to show you the defense was much better. Now, offensive rebounding for Indiana, it wasn't like jumping off the page, but the Hoosiers did have 10 offensive rebounds in this game. Probably more than you would like if you're Louisville. Both teams had 34 total rebounds. There were a couple situations where, I mean, Michael Brown hits the ball out of bounds on a play. Just a couple of tough plays, if you will, in which Louisville didn't really capture the momentum of the moment. And it is what it is. You can't have a perfect game every time out. And Louisville, for the most part, played a very, very good game on Saturday. They shot the ball 46% from the field, 42% from three. Shot selection, much, much better. I mentioned that I thought the Indiana was more similar to Louisville than Arkansas was. You saw that on Saturday. A team that likes to play a good amount of 5-outs, not a ton of interior presence on offense, and that worked into Louisville's advantage. Louisville was doing a good job of hedging ball screens and not giving up too many open lanes to the basket. They didn't give up too many open shots, and even though they won by 9, the final score might not have indicated like the true reality of the win for Louisville, because the Cardinals were up by almost 20 points late in the game. So it's a good bounce back win, good quad one victory to add to the resume. Let's look at the 3 stars of the game. I have done this a couple times, and if you're an everydayer of the show, if you're part of the Everydayer Club, then you know what this is. If this is your first time tuning in, we're glad that you're here. But 3 stars, it basically goes along the lines of like hockey recognition. The 1 star is the MVP, and then you go down the line. So the 3rd star, in my opinion, I went back and forth between this player and Isaac McKneely. I ended up giving the 3rd star to Kobe Rodgers, who came off the bench, played 13 minutes, 12 points, 4-4 from the field, 2-2 from 3. He had 2 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 assist, 1 block. His minutes continue to impress me. A guy that just knows how to impact the game outside of the box score, but he did impact the box score. There were a couple of shots that he had in the second half when Indiana was threatening. Kobe Rodgers made some big-time plays, and Isaac McKneely did as well. Don't get me wrong. Got to give him credit. Got to give a lot of people credit. But I'm going with Kobe Rodgers for that 3rd star. In my opinion, the 2nd star is Javon Hadley. 33 minutes, didn't play the best performance, or didn't have the best performance against Arkansas, but 33 minutes against the Hoosiers, 15 points, 6 rebounds, had a steal and an assist. Really good on the defensive end. Got thrown into the matchup with guys like Tucker DeVries and some of the other players in the front court, and I thought he held his own. Hadley also had a couple of big-time buckets in the paint in that second half. He was 1 for 5 from 3, but just an insane glue guy to have on the team. And coming away from that game on Saturday, I was impressed with Javon Hadley's performance. And so he's going to get the 2nd star, in my opinion. But number 1 was pretty clear. The MVP of the game was the Indy native himself, Ryan Conwell. 31 minutes, team high 21 points, 3 of 7 from 3, 10 of 11 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. In big games, in a road-like environment, your stars got to show up. Ryan Conwell showed up. He showed up early on in the game. Had some foul trouble early in the second half. This whistle was a weird one. I know that Louisville shot more free throws, but if you watch the flow of that game, it seemed like the officiating crew didn't know how to call blocks or charges. They didn't know how to call screens. I mean, Tucker DeVries got away with a Derrick Henry stiff arm on Michael Brown Jr. I think it was Enright got away with a slide tackle that that Moises Caicedo of my beloved Chelsea FC would even be surprised to see. And not to mention Lamar Wilkerson doing the ballerina spin twice and getting away with the walk. But whatever. I mean, you won the game. Officiating is what it is. But Conwell gets those 3 fouls early on in the second half, and he played with a ton of poise and discipline down the stretch as to not pick up those other fouls. And when big shots were needed, when offense was needed, Ryan Conwell's number was called, and he rose to the occasion. So he was the MVP of this game. Looking down the list here, McKneely had a really good game. Ruth's played 7 minutes. Pryor played 4. Khalifa played 6. You had Adrian Woolley off the bench. He had 0 points, but 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Michael Brown Jr., 2 of 8 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3, 5 of 5 from the free throw line, 3 assists, 1 rebound. Even though the box score doesn't show it, I felt like Michael Brown didn't really force things as much in this game. Kind of got the end of a tough whistle, like I said. The stiff arm from Tucker DeVries, the 2 first-half fouls where I'm not sure if either one of those were truly fouls. It's going to come together for Michael. I'm not worried. It wasn't the best performance from him, but I thought that even when the shot wasn't falling, he was being patient, wasn't forcing things, playing really good team basketball. It's going to come around for him. The shots are going to fall. I'm not really worried about Michael. This is a good victory for Louisville. Good bounce-back victory. Good W to get back in the groove of things. Louisville will have about a week off before they play on before they play on Saturday against Memphis, and we will preview that game coming up on Friday's edition of the show. But a lot happened on Saturday. The college football playoff rankings were revealed. The teams and schedules were put out. Miami got into the field, which is good for the ACC. The conference can have a collective sigh of relief. But how does this affect the Cardinals and the conference moving forward? Well, I'll explain what I think when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets in the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. I got tickets to the Spain game on June 21st down in Atlanta on the Game Time app on Saturday because I literally just pulled up the app and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through the matchups and compare the seat views. And the seat view feature is a game changer. You literally see what the pitch looks like from your exact seat before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services, including YouTube and TikTok, 5 days a week. Your team every day. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Leave us a comment in the YouTube section below. Both are great ways to help the show continue to grow. Also, thank you all so much to all the everydayers out there. If this is your first time tuning in, we're glad that you're here. But you all have played a huge part in making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network on planet Earth. It is much, much appreciated. So let's continue to talk from what happened this weekend. Of course, the college football playoff field was revealed midday on Sunday as expected. And for the most part, didn't seem like there were too many surprises. Duke winning the ACC championship game meant that there wasn't an automatic qualifying team that makes it. But Miami got the nod over Notre Dame and BYU. And I'll say this. I know that you all didn't tune into the show to hear the host of Locked On Louisville tell you about a playoff field that Louisville didn't make. I'm going to tell you how I think this affects the team and the conference, but I do want to kind of give some thoughts on the playoffs. I will say that you can't make everyone happy. No matter what your criteria or rubric or guideline is that you're deciding from, you're not going to make every single team happy. You kind of have to just find that healthy medium. For the most part, I thought the committee got it right. I think the committee got it right. The 5 automatic qualifying teams got in, right? 11 was Tulane. James Madison was 12. If you want to argue that it should be the 12 best teams and not the resumes or the automatic qualifiers, like, you can have that conversation at a different time. But I think Miami getting in over Notre Dame was 1,000,000% the right decision because resumes are pretty similar. Notre Dame didn't have a top 15 win. And get this, because head-to-head should matter, Miami gets in over Notre Dame. You put Notre Dame in over Miami, I just don't know how you can justify like head-to-head results at all anymore. So shout out to the committee for getting that right. BYU not getting in after a tough conference championship game performance, but Alabama not going down after the same thing. Kind of a double standard there, but Alabama has the better resume. But, I'm not here to argue about who should or who shouldn't have made it. Let's take a look at what this means for the ACC. A 10-2 ACC team got in. Miami, who had lost to Louisville, lost to SMU. The conference was kind of on the outside looking in, heading into this morning with Duke winning, and there is a collective sigh of relief from the ACC because you get a team in and you dodge the complete embarrassment. If you rewind about 12 months ago, we talked about how the perception of the ACC couldn't have been any lower. Going into this season, it was critical that the conference proves people wrong, and they did the exact opposite of that. Clemson, top 5 preseason team, not a good team. Miami, first couple weeks of the year looked like the best team in the country. They lose against Louisville and SMU. The Cardinals drop the ball down the stretch. SMU loses early on. This was a terrible year for the ACC overall because you played right in to those narratives and the perception. So Miami getting a team, or I'm sorry, the ACC getting a team in and having Miami in the field, maybe it's because of name brand recognition. Will a 10-2 ACC team always get in? Probably not. But remember, people called me crazy early on in the year when I said if Louisville goes 10-2, they're not a lock for the college football playoff because I saw this coming. The committee's looking for any reason to put more SEC and Big Ten teams in. You know they are. They told you they are. Believe them. So it's nice to see logic and reason triumph over hypotheticals and other name brand recognition. Notre Dame not making the playoffs. Sorry, man, join a conference. Which with this this MOU, this rumored MOU that apparently Notre Dame signed this year, according to Ross Dellinger, that if they make the top 12 moving forward, that they automatically make the playoffs. I think it's just hilarious that they're getting the special treatment. Maybe don't lose earlier in the season. I don't know. But whatever. I'm not here to throw shade at Notre Dame. I think that the way they're reacting to this is kind of interesting. But, oh, well, this makes this even more frustrating for Louisville. Louisville was one of 5 teams in college football to go 2-0 against the college football playoff teams. They beat Miami. They beat James Madison. They were the only team that James Madison lost to, by the way. Wasn't hard to see that JMU could run the table even if they lost to Louisville. Could run the table after they lost to Louisville. Let me clarify. This is more frustrating for Louisville because this should have been the year that Louisville got in. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. I get it. But with one loss heading into the final stretch, California had every opportunity to beat. Like, if you handle business against 2 of the 3 teams that you should have beat, Virginia, Cal, Clemson, let's say you lose to SMU, but you win 2 of those other 3 games at 10-2 with a win over Miami and JMU, I don't see them leaving Louisville out. I think at 10-2, Louisville would have made the playoffs. But they didn't. And that's the frustrating part about this, guys. That's the frustrating part about this, is because here we are, second straight year with everything to play for, the opportunity to maybe control your own destiny. Louisville drops the ball down the stretch. And that's why I don't know what conversations need to be had amongst the coaching staff, the support staff, the roster, whoever. Louisville has to do a better job of that late game management, doing the little things well, and winning those 50-50 games that they were so good at doing in Brom's first year that they haven't really been good at doing the past 2 years. And you're talking about, well, Louisville's always been this 6 to 8 win program historically. Sure, but there's more parity ever in college football, or there's more parity in college football than there's ever been. This is your opportunity moving forward. Opportunity is not a lengthy visitor. You got to strike while the iron's hot. That's what makes this so frustrating, is that you saw Miami get in. You saw JMU get in. Two teams that you beat. Just frustrating. And what's even more frustrating is that Louisville's going to play in a bowl game that the vast majority of Card Nation's not going to care about. We'll tell you who they got matched up with and what I think when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. The holidays come with two big goals: feeding people well and finding gifts they'll actually love. And when you want both handled in one move, Omaha Steaks is the way to go. From hosting to gifting, they deliver the world's best steaks experience right to your door, because during their Sizzle All the Way sale, you could stock up and save in a huge way, 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. And it gets even better. Locked On College listeners get an extra $35 off with the code COLLEGE at checkout. I've sent Omaha Steaks as gifts the past 2 years, and the reaction is always the same. This is the best give ever, because it's the gift that keeps on giving, because you don't just reap the benefits in December, but however long the supplies last of the meat that you order. There's so many options, from fillets, burgers, comfort meals, sides, desserts. You can build a box for anyone. Save big on gourmet gifts and more holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Sizzle All the Way sale. And for an extra $35 off, use the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. That's omahasteaks.com using the code COLLEGE. Card Nation, tomorrow's show, we're going to highlight some individual performances from the past couple of weeks from the Louisville men's basketball team. There's going to be more basketball talk on the show tomorrow. Don't forget, if you use YouTube to tune into Locked On Louisville, or Spotify, you can go to your 2025 recap. And if Locked On Louisville is in the top podcast that you tune into, please share it on social media. Tag us on X at @dpence_ is my personal page. At @LO_Louisville is the Locked On Louisville X page. But let's continue the football talk on this Monday edition of the show. The Cardinals found out their bowl game fate late in the afternoon on Sunday, after there was some supposedly a cluster of bowls trying to get Clemson in the ACC games. Notre Dame turning down the Duke's Mayo Bowl through a wrench in teams' plans, but you're starting to see more and more teams opt out. I think it's giving a give me my ball, I'm going home type vibe. But whatever. I mean, if a team decides they don't want to play in the bowl game, that's on them. I understand that bowl games have lost their shine. They don't mean much at all outside of the playoff, and people just are spending this time to make a business decision. Do they want to stay at the school? Do they want to elect to go to the transfer portal? They want to go to the NFL draft? Do they want to opt out of the bowl? I mean, it's whatever. The days of tradition in college football have gone by the wayside. This is just the new era of college football. It feels like what is going to soon come down the road is an expanded playoff where those bowl games are just consumed into the playoffs, right? That's what it feels like. But at this point, the state of bowl games is Louisville got thrown into a bowl where the ACC is not even like an option for that bowl. Like if you look at the Boca Raton Bowl is the bowl that Louisville is going to play in against Toledo. This is where the conference tie-ins for this bowl, the American Athletic Conference, the MAC, the Mountain West, and the Sun Belt. So you throw an 8-4 ACC team into the Boca Raton Bowl on December 23rd at 2 p.m. against the Toledo Rockets, who are also 8-4. Again, Card Nation's not going to be thrilled about it. But the only person you really can blame, sort of like with the college football playoff thing, the only person you can blame is yourself. Because you had every opportunity to play for more. And when you lose 3 games in a row down the stretch and you finish 4-4 in conference play, this is the type of thing that's going to happen. So I'm not mad at the decision for like Louisville to be in this bowl. I'm not mad at like the bowl. I'm not mad at the bowl game for bringing Louisville in. I'm mad at Louisville for being in a position where you are in this bowl game. You're 8-4. You're playing against a Toledo team that also went 8-4. They finished tied for second in the MAC. Tied for second in the MAC. They lost the tiebreaker. So Miami ended up playing Western Michigan in the MAC championship. They lost to Kentucky first game of the season. They lost to Bowling Green by 5, a team that Louisville dominated. They got blown out by Washington State, and they lost by 1 against Western Michigan. So this is the team that, unless Louisville is decimated by injuries, which they are, unless they have a vast majority of players leave via the portal, I think that Louisville is going to be in line to win this game pretty handily. That's my initial reaction to it. Louisville should win this game pretty handily. And don't get me wrong, I mentioned that excuse me, I still like bowl games because it's an opportunity to play another game. Like, I'm not ready for Louisville football to be done until next August. I'm sorry. If you don't like bowl games, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to fan. If you're not excited for the Boca Raton Bowl, I'm joining you right there. I'm not excited about this bowl either, but it's a bowl game. It's another game for your team to play, and I'm going to enjoy watching my team play. It doesn't take away the pain of being 8-4 when you had a 7-1 start, but nothing you could do about it now. So we'll break that. We'll break that game down. We'll break the matchup down. We'll preview the opponent as we get closer. That game's 2 days before Christmas, December 23rd at 2 p.m. down in Boca Raton, Florida. They will play at FAU's home stadium on the campus of Florida Atlantic University. And the payout, I think, for winning that game is close to $1 million, if I'm not mistaken. So, hey, another bowl game opportunity, potential to get some more money to the program, whatever it may be. But that is going to wrap up today's episode of the show. We'll be back here tomorrow breaking down some individual performances from the men's basketball team. Everyone have a great start to your week. Go Cards.